Welcome back to the third episode of Run It Back, where we talk all things Oceanic Valorant. My name is Ducky, as you can see down my badge there. Let's go. And I'm joined by the wonderful Avril, caster and coach of Direwolves, and Racket, also a caster. How you going tonight, guys?
Very good, very good.
Good.
I don't have any Snowball merch on me. Just pretend I do. That's the part I'm missing out on right now.
I mean, to be fair, this is Ducky, so...
Yeah.
It's just, he yoinked that from me about 18 months ago now, and it's like been a trophy in his closet since then.
It's a trophy, yeah.
Okay,
I wear it out all the time, just raise it up in the sky. I don't even wear it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, at least you're promoting us. That's a good thing. What we need to sort you out with is a hat.
Oh,
need to get you
I'll run it.
a Snowball hat.
Yes.
Snowball hat.
Please. That would be awesome. I'd wear it all the time, man.
Enough talking about Snowball merch, and may as well talk about our guest. You know, we go straight into the content here. No beating around the bush. Joined by one of your boys, Kevin. One of the Direwolves lads. Coming from Paladins and is now tearing up the streets of future Earth.
You made me think it was like, who's one of my boys? Oh yeah. Oh, one of those guys. One of the Direwolves players. Boys. Oh, that's right. One of those boys.
Yes.
The boys. I see.
Yeah. He is one of the Direwolves players, now qualified a couple of weeks ago now for Rise of Valor Top 16. It's the one and only Wryce. How you going, mate?
Yeah, what's up, guys? I'm pretty good. How are we all doing?
Good, mate. Good. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Now, we've talked about that you did come from Paladins, but tell us a bit more about you. Who is Wryce?
I guess we'll start from the beginning. I started playing games back like Halo 3, played a bit of that, and then I went on to Call of Duty and discovered trickshotting. I'm sure everyone knows about that. So I joined a bunch of teams, did a bunch of that for, I don't know, like 1 or 2 years. And then I discovered PC gaming when I got my first PC, and I played a lot of Counter-Strike. And then, that transitioned to Paladins. My friends, introduced it to me. And I just sort of went from there, my whole, pro gaming career. And I mean, that's how it happened.
Makes you kind of like a rare breed when you look into Valorant. Like the only other Paladins player I can think of who's decent or in the top flight in Australia is Ozrhino.
Yeah, he's.
You guys have all forgotten about Diggy Dog and stuff.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, Diggy
from
NIP.
There. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I never really followed Paladins Esports though. I played the game. I was a dirty Sky one trick back on release.
Oh, okay.
And then I kind of filtered out after OB64 happened.
Yeah,
the dreaded OB64. But I did enjoy the game.
Xenox the caster also good at Paladins at one point as well?
He played. I remember I talked to him. He played Paladins very early on, and he said it was quite easy because no one was playing at that time. I think at that moment, after mine from Overwatch went over to Paladins, that was a team with Hades and Chronix and stuff, and Joels and all that, who eventually became Kangaroo. So they went up to Paladins like a full team, and they started dominating as one of the first few properly organized teams at the time. So
yeah.
What was it like being a Paladins pro in Australia? Obviously, it's a very small game, even when you're looking globally.
Yeah. I mean, it was some of the most fun times I've had in my life, to be honest. I played for Avant back in 2017. And we maintained top 3 in the region around there. And then actually right before DreamHack qualifiers, I got falsely banned for cheating. So I couldn't play at all before. But luckily, within a week, we resolved it. But unfortunately, we didn't qualify for DreamHack. And then I went on to play for Outlaws, made a LAN, came second. I actually have the Paladins medal right here. Thought I'd bring it on and show the fellas.
Show and tell.
So we got that.
Hey.
Runners up. So, kind of sad, but oh well, what can you do?
It's better than a trophy, though, when you think about it. Now you've got it in your own possession. You don't have to, cut it into 5.
Yeah, literally, yeah. No, it was really good.
Was there, So you're a DPS player in Paladins, weren't you?
Yeah. I played, mostly blast characters, area of effect damage and projectile and stuff, yeah.
Is there anything that you miss from Paladins when you made the transition to Overwatch?
I didn't play Overwatch that much.
Sorry,
yeah.
to Valorant. My brain is in Overwatch mode for some reason.
No, that's alright. We have a lot of Overwatch players on Direwolves, easy to get confused.
All bundled up.
Yeah, I mean, the main difference between Paladins and Valorant is like the intensity of the game. So it's like not as fast paced. You have to slow it down a little bit, and like there's a lot of mind games in Valorant. It's more like chess, and Paladins is more like rugby, if that makes sense.
Yep.
You just sort of like send it. So yeah, that was actually a struggle for me at the start because I had no patience for Valorant at all. But I've definitely learned to love the game a lot.
I guess that would be like similar for us three, I guess, or definitely Avril and Raka, because a lot of us have got Overwatch backgrounds as well before this. And obviously, if you go back into Kevin when I was probably in nappies, he was playing TF2.
Yeah.
True. I'll tell you what, Wryce, you say like you had a hard time like holding back, but I think the non-CS players have done a much better job playing reserved and playing safe than a lot of CS players I've seen who just run it down.
That's true, yeah.
There's a lot of CS players out there, like, you know, on other teams, you know, even on our team, just like a lot of CS players in general. I don't know why, but it's obviously not, I'm kind of generalizing here, but like I find a lot of them tend to want it running down in Valorant way more than any of the Overwatch players or Paladins or Fortnite players I've seen. Maybe that's
is
just
there a reason for that, do you think?
I don't know. I think I'm generalizing a lot, and it's obviously not 100% true for everybody. Like, there's definitely going to be the non-CS guys who also run it down, but could be confirmation bias. Maybe I'm just like, whenever I see it, I'm like, oh yeah, there you go, there's another CS player running it down, and I just ignore it when it's someone else. It could be confirmation bias, but it's just something I've like kind of noticed, just, you know, objectively viewing it. But it's probably some inaccuracy in there. I don't know what the correlation is. I don't know why. I just find it's interesting. You know, we were talking about the different pacings of different games, but actually it's, you know, at least based on what I've seen, maybe it's because of the fact that could be varying degrees of experience among the CS players. Maybe the more experienced CS players are going to be a little bit more reserved and disciplined, whereas, you know, a lot of the people coming over now from CS and Valorant are probably, I don't know, more deathmatch kind of players, or they're more lesser experienced players who kind of just want to frag a bit more. I don't know. I'm kind of guessing.
I mean, I guess like when you look at like the end of OVO, you're looking at Team Launch, who played a very disciplined style of Valorant. They drafted like EU style comps, which have a bigger focus on control compared to like the double duelist NA meta. So maybe it does come with experience. Like when you look at the Team Launch roster, all of those guys have played top level CS in Australia. They've played on the international stage. Some of them have made majors. Maybe that experience does play in a part. Maybe it's also like a little bit of arrogance when you look at like, it's a CSGO player kind of Valorant. They're like, oh yeah, my game is the most similar to this game out of any other game. So it's like, I can just run it down, rely on my instincts and my 6,000 hours logged on Steam to just beat up some kids who might have just been cranking 90s in Fortnite.
I mean, what do you think about this, Wryce, in general? Like bundling everything up, because obviously your team is like a little bit more Overwatch centric than most other teams. Are there sort of advantages for that, sort of having a like supposed different style compared to sort of a lot of CS teams coming over from Valorant?
Oh, definitely. Like all the utility is way similar to like Paladins and Overwatch. So like all of us picked that up super quickly, and it was really a matter of like getting used to the basic mechanics of Valorant, which is way more similar to CS:GO. So like trading, like which angles to pick, where you're gonna have a better chance of winning the duel, and stuff like that. So we're like starting to catch up a bit, and our results have been showing that recently, which is really good.
Want to be clear as well, Raka. There's only 2 Overwatch players on Direwolves.
I mean, but
that's
like
like 40%,
compared to like majority of the roster. Sorry, not majority.
I
Of the
don't
roster,
know
like
if there's
majority
any
of the
roster
pool.
right now that is like majority Overwatch. I think back in the day, like back when Eggs was around with Noz and signed, and that team was like full Overwatch team. But since then, I don't actually know if there's been any team even close to being full Overwatch. It's been you got like different.
Walkers had Hayam, Katie, and Zhao Bao, which they were both within the Overwatch like pro.
They still do. They currently still do. So like even
Yes.
that team, that's like 2 Overwatch players.
Okay.
Yeah, you got Jasper on Mindfreak. That's like 1 Overwatch guy.
I feel like a lot of like the
I
Overwatch
don't-
guys are like beating around, not necessarily like in the top 16, but like you've got like teams like Janitors, which is like Yvonne's team. They are like top 32-ish.
So among the teams that are like top 16 right now, you know, and ChoStar's recently made it, they got Winter. So like I think on the top 16 teams, there's not really more than 2 Overwatch players per team, even on the teams that do have Overwatch players. It's actually not that heavy. But I will say that Direwolves is a team that is more geared to non-CS experience rather than CS experience, which is probably true of a few other teams in the top 16 as well, like Mindfreak and Pants Down, over Palace Strike's another one. So Crabwall Killers as well. So it's actually a decent mix of, I think, in the region right now among quote unquote like good teams where the experience comes from.
Do you think you would rather have that diversity of experience, like speaking from your own experience, both Wryce and Avril, like would you rather have that diversity of experience in a team versus a team that singular focus was one game previously?
Do you want to go, Avril?
I'd probably say that. See, Wryce is deferring to me here because.
No, I'll answer it as well. I'll let you have it first.
Yeah, so I think for me, I think it's better to have some diversity in there. You want to have different backgrounds so the different experience comes through. So you have the CS background. I think for teams like Mindfreak are doing a really good job of that as well, actually, where you have the CS background in there that you can have some good fundamentals, some good discipline coming through from CS, but then you have some sort of mixed experience in terms of understanding how to play the rest of the game, because this is as much as it's kind of like a CS clone, it's also not CS. At the end of the day, you're not playing CS, and I'm starting to find like teams that are doing well, even if they are CS teams, they're moving away from like a pure CS style and they're playing more like a Valorant team versus a CS team, if that makes any sense. And the teams that are still stuck in CS mode only, they're actually not doing very well at the moment. So I think it's just even just looking at who the good teams are right now, and the fact that a vast number of those teams do not have many CS players at all, if any, just shows that actually the differing of experience is actually quite helpful, and I think there's different strengths being brought to the table regardless. So yeah, that would be my opinion.
Yeah, I think the diversity, like, it allows us to. We have a lot of innovation in the team, especially coming from hero shooters. So I think that's been like a really great asset to like our team specifically, and I mean a few other teams as well. So yeah, I think it's helped us out like a lot, like coming up against all these CS teams with a lot of experience in TAC shooters. Yeah,
it is quite interesting as well, because like bundling up these philosophies, I mean, you can sort of play devil's advocate and be like, okay, when you have a wide variety of different players from different backgrounds in your team, sometimes it can be like too many cooks in the kitchen, or you have a variety of different ideas and you can't find like a coherent identity, right? But as you guys are explaining there, I mean, you've just given like good evidence as to some of the teams who have been more diverse within our scene, within top 16, who are a little bit more successful. So maybe we can flip the storyline and say, are CS players like stuck in the mud in this regard? I mean, I know that's like flipping the switch completely, but listen,
that's controversial.
Exactly. We want to flip the other side of the newspaper and see what's there. Like, is there something to that? Because one thing I will add to that comment as well, to make it a little bit more better as an argument, is that generally from what I've seen, like on social media, when like a new agent comes out, the first person to comment on that agent will always be someone from CS. They're like, oh, what is this ability? Are you kidding me? You're ruining the game. That like, and then they reference like the tweet that was made like 6 months ago for Valorant. Like Valorant will not
Project
have
A,
any
shooting
abilities.
matters.
Yes, in Project A, shooting matters. Like you can sort of lead that point a little bit, right?
Yeah. I think. I mean, I don't want to cause any controversy, but I think like.
Fight.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Call them out.
No, I'll
Name them.
say. I mean, I think that. We've been playing. A lot of teams have been playing for a while now, as actual teams, and like proper solid rosters have formed. And I think that the players from those hero shooters probably do have that advantage right now, at least, because we've sort of caught up to all the CS stuff. So they sort of have to learn all the like innovation and the util usage that we already sort of know. So I would say like, yeah, like maybe that your argument's correct. Like they might be a little bit stuck in the mud. I'm just saying I don't know.
I feel like it's eventually just going to be down the line that CS and Valorant are just going to be two completely distinct entities. Like we see this with every game that's released, is like it's always dominated by someone or like people from some one game, and then eventually the community just becomes the Valorant community. Like it's not oh, I was a CS:GO pro and now I'm a Valorant pro. I was always a Valorant pro. And I think once that adaptation happens in like 3 to 4 years, and I think this is something that we saw in Overwatch, that we've seen in plenty of other games since, is like once the game evolved from just being pros from another game being really good at this type of game to pros actually being good at this game specifically, I think that's going to like really impact how we see teams being built up in the next like couple of years.
You're not gonna have to wait 3 to 4 years. You're gonna see it next year, dude. Like this time next year, I'm pretty damn sure the game is going to be at a state where it'll just be very different from Counter-Strike. Like it'll be at the core, like sure, the shooting mechanics and different sort of aiming techniques and mechanics are still going to be similar, but the game is already, in my opinion, moving in the kind of direction that is very different from Counter-Strike. Like you can even just see it in the new agent releases. If you get more agents like Killjoys and more agents like Sova, Cyphers, even just all these different types of agents that are doing very different things that are kind of breaking the mold of what you think Counter-Strike is, that is just going to make the game more and more like its own thing. Valorant just becomes Valorant. It's not like a CS clone anymore, right? It's not a CS clone in general. So at that point, you can't just come in as a CS player and pretend it's CS, just like you can't go to Overwatch and pretend it's TF2. In the early days, in the first year of Overwatch, you could be a TF2 player. I was one of them. Come in, play like TF2 and be reasonably successful. But now, a year down the line, 2 years down the line, that's just not possible. Like you have to be a player of that game. You have to be an Overwatch player. You can't just be like X or Y player coming from another game. And I would even argue, even similar games like Paladins and Overwatch, you can bring certain things over, but you got to know how to play that specific game, and that's going to be very true for Valorant and CS very soon. So in terms of being stuck in the mud racket, like teams that are not trying to evolve to become Valorant players and Valorant teams are going to be stuck in the mud if they are still just playing it like CS, in a very rigid way like CS, and they're not being innovative, they're not being creative, they're not thinking about how the agents work and what you need to be doing as a team in a Valorant sense instead of just the CS sense, and what players should be playing what and where and why and all these kind of things, and how that all mixes together. You're not thinking about it from a hero shooter perspective, because there's a level where you do have to think about it from a hero shooter. It's not Counter-Strike. Then you'll get left behind. And as the game evolves and as we move forward and more content's released, I'm pretty sure like the direction we're moving in is going to be more creative agent design, where agents are going to be doing less and less Counter-Strike-ish kind of things.
And that's a really good point to bring up, and really nice segue to what I want to talk about next, which is agent design in Valorant, and obviously Killjoy, because everyone loves talking about Killjoy right now because she's the hottest new theme on the market. She was enabled for the last couple of weeks of Rise of Valor. Have you had the chance to play much Killjoy, Wryce, or play against much Killjoy in scrims? Like, what are your thoughts on her?
We ran her a little bit, and then we found out we wouldn't be able to play her, so we stopped using her. But from what I saw, she was very strong. And I mean, when we verse Killjoy, she can also be pretty strong. But one thing that Avril actually raised,
just quickly, Wryce, I just want to make sure we're not like going to be leaking any sensitive data here at all from the team before we move any further. Anything you say, just keep that in mind.
Cannot leak the scrapbook.
Okay. No, I think we're good. Well, I guess
we're good. That's the end of that. We're done.
Okay.
I've got Jason on the phone. He's like, "What's happening? Why are you doing this?"
No, I mean, I just think that, like, if you really think about it, you probably could, like, counter Killjoy pretty easily. There's a lot of it's sort of the same thing with Cypher Traps. So yeah, I think right now she's pretty strong. And actually, one thing I will say, they need to nerf the Nano Swarm, because that thing does too much damage too quick. It is so annoying. But yeah, that's all I'll go.
It's interesting to hear that from my perspective, because there's been a lot of discussion internationally. I remember seeing a thread where like Sick was talking to Def on Twitter, and it was like, Killjoy's actually not as broken as people think she is. It's just a case of people don't know how to play against her yet. Like, do you think that it's just going to be not necessarily a learning curve for the player? Because I'm pretty sure most of the Killjoy mains now know how to place turrets and alarm bots and nano swarms and how to use their utility effectively and changing things up. But to play against it is still a bit of a foreign concept.
Yeah, I'd say you like hit the nail on the head there. I think that's pretty accurate. Yeah, she's just such a different character. I mean, yeah, basically, you got it.
Let me put it this way: any character whose kit revolves around pre-placing utility is going to be counted because you can't. There's only some. You can only be so creative with that. Like, yeah, you can put them in different places. You can be like a Cypher and get tricky with them and try and put them in different places. But the pure fact of the matter of you having to pre-place them means that it can be played around. It can be counted. Whereas playing against someone that is going to use utility more reactively against you in terms of, reacting to something a team is doing, then the utility it's used, like a flash, for example, or a Molotov ability, those, you can't. I feel like you're playing around those requires a different kind of play style, whereas, playing against a Cypher, playing against a Killjoy, you typically know what the kind of setups are going to have to be. They're either going to be this type of setup, or they're not going to be as good, or they're going to be something different that maybe you haven't figured out yet, but it's limited. It's like anybody that has to pre-place util is just going to be limited in terms of what their overall output can be once people know what they're doing. And if people don't know what they're doing, then they're going to be great. But, even in, you can play like, even unrated now, or you can play like ranked, where if you're a certain level in ranked, like people are not just going to randomly walk into Cypher trap wires for no reason all the time. I think most people will understand like, hey, you can actually shoot these, you can actually like walk up to them, discover them, you can actually play around these. So yeah, I mean that will only improve as time goes on.
Yeah, I mean, this is like something that we need to get used to in terms of agents being released, right? Like, especially with Killjoy's kit, because it is different to what Reyna was. Reyna was a pretty simple concept, right? You have 2 flashbangs, you can heal, you can turn invisible, and go away. With Killjoy, she has set positions where she can utilize her Molotovs and stuff. And if you don't know where those positions are, you can just get immediately killed by them, right? But over time, when people start figuring out where those positions are, all of a sudden, she's negated in that way, right? Like, if you can identify where those pressure points are, then you can play around them. You can use utility. You can path around them. It's a surprise factor, and it happens with a variety of different games that introduce characters that bring new concepts. You have to figure it out in order to play it or to go against it.
Yep, definitely.
Now, you're a Cypher player, aren't you, Wryce?
Yep, I call myself the B-side security guard.
do you play B-site on every map? Like, surely not Haven B. Surely you don't.
Yeah, we'll just say he, in fact, any teams listening up, he does in fact play B-site on every map.
He plays B-site on every map. You heard it here first.
And
what's going to happen?
He definitely isn't ever.
What's
going to
happen when Riot release a one bomb site map?
And it's still B, and it's not A. It's still just B. They just, for whatever reason, it's not A or C. It's just it's one site and it's called B.
It's fun as a sentinel.
Oh, one site as a sentinel? Oh, it'd be great. Yeah. But when you were talking about like people trying to solve like Killjoy stuff, like Cypher's been in the game longer. People have had more time to solve Cypher stuff. How, as a Cypher player, have you been able to get around that?
Well, it gets frustrating, I'll tell you that much. I think the main thing about Cypher is you can't be predictable. You have to be doing different stuff every round. And like switching up your traps and your cages and like doing stuff that no one's going to expect, sitting in off angles. And you really have to be like aware of that kind of stuff. And also, while doing that, you have to be able to gather intel for the team and try and figure out like how much control we have of the map. And where we think the enemy is going to be attacking. So yeah, there's a whole lot to do on Cypher. It's not like a very flashy role. You don't end up getting the top frags on the team every game, but it's a solid role. I actually enjoy playing it.
And he still gets top frags though. Like you say that, but like there's been an official two. You definitely top frag on Cypher, which is.
Can you give me like on a percentage? How many times do you beat signed?
How many times do I beat side?
Yeah, if it's anything less than 100, I'm going to be very sad.
Like if we were like 1v1ing?
Yeah, like how many times do you just out-frag Dale?
Oh.
Surely it's 100.
Okay.
Somehow.
I don't know. Like,
I did it.
Pretty often, I would say. I don't know. If you're listening to, I'd say pretty often.
It's true only because like it depends how many people walk into them. For example, like how many times people are going to go to the B site with the security guards there to check the IDs, how often they're going to go there and how often are they going to walk into Dale. So there's definitely been a lot of games out there where like signs like, why is no one coming to me? And they're all going to, they're just all going to Wryce. Like, so that can skew the results.
That is true. Yeah.
Look, I will forever hold it, and I'm gonna go with this to my grave. Is that the one game that I played against Dale in a tournament? I outfragged him. So if you're listening, Dale, I outfragged you, and I'm only diamond.
You guys just didn't walk into him. He's just there patiently waiting. Like Ducky and his team will come in around any second.
I'm pretty sure I beat him in
he's-
duels, anyways. I
Just
can't
sitting
go
there
back and
playing
check.
AFK Simulator.
I'd flex. Come on, mate.
Yeah.
Can
Come
I-
on.
Yeah.
Just something I very interesting that I brought up actually, but you bracket a little bit earlier. I had a good laugh at this one. I just thought about it in my head. It's like, if there actually was only one site in Valorant, wouldn't that just be Valorant ARAM? Like, you just attack one site and just 5v5 one site. Valorant ARAM, here we go. Valorant howling at best, that's all it is.
I think it would just become a battle of which Sage uses their walls better. Like,
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
dude,
everyone just
counter
throws their
boosting
volleys
just
and
becomes the
grenades.
strat.
Oh, that'd be hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah. We should get right on the phone and figure that out. Like that should be a fun new game.
It's
They
like-
should stop
it's
working
like-
on whatever the hell they're doing.
It's
now.
like Inferno B only. You just play up and down banana. That's it. The rest of the map doesn't exist. It's Inferno banana only. That would be Valorant ARAM.
Yeah.
That is chaotic.
They've come up with a lot of good concepts on this show, fellas. Like, we need to give ourselves
Yeah.
a pat on the back. With,
Last time I was here,
meta
I said,
agents.
I had some real bangers out there, man. I need to get
You
high.
did.
I
scientist
spoke
of
about this on
Valorant.
Twitter a bit. Like, but have you seen the agent concept of this? Like this quantum concept some guy thought of on
Oh, yeah, I have.
CS
Someone
players
doesn't
will
like it.
hate it. CS players are gonna hate it.
Even I hate it, man. It's just, I don't know. It's just, it feels like it would be game breaking. Like, especially the ult, just like seeing through the walls and stuff, like just completely creating a new line of attack. Like, it would be pretty nuts.
Do you think that there's like space for an operator with like similar kind of abilities? Like, if you haven't seen this for the uninitiated, the C is like dropping a clone similar to like an alibi clone in Rainbow Six, or a Nico clone from League of Legends if you play that. The Q is like Phoenix's run it back, but you don't get the revive if you die while you're out in your Q. The E is like a triangle of smokes, I guess, as you cut off an area. And then the R is you blow open a wall for 30 seconds where you can run through it, shoot bullets, do whatever. That was the general concept of this quantum. And like myself personally, I thought it was like really cool, but all the numbers that this
that
guy
was me
provided
too.
were way overblown.
Yeah.
It was like the rift lasts for like 20 seconds. I'm like that's so far. Like, and then like
Yeah.
it just made no sense. But like I would like to see something similar to that in the game soon.
I just want you to know, like, by the way, doing concepts are fun, but actually doing concepts and having them get a lot of traction or any traction basically dooms your concept to never be included in the game ever, because devs can't use those. I'm like 99% sure. Like, I remember in Hearthstone, back when I was in the Hearthstone community, there's a lot of card concepts, as you can imagine, and those could never be used, because the problem is, if you use fan concepts, what is the legality behind that? Do you have to credit them? Do you have to pay them? It's like, you've taken their idea. Like, where it just gets very messy. It's an entire gray area of like fan concepts and stuff in the game, and then like if it does get used, it's just really, really, really sensitive. So anyone that actually makes a good concept, unfortunately, that'll never see the light of day. So
Wow. That's a harsh reality check.
it is. It's
So,
sad. I'm
that's
sorry to put it down.
unfortunate.
on
No
that, but it's
quantum,
like,
anyone? No quantum.
no
no
quantum.
quantum, but we might see like distant cousin of quantum. I can't think of a name. I'm not original
hole.
like
Yeah, Blantum or
Rontum.
Just,
Rontum.
like a definitely not quantum is what it's called.
Yep.
Yeah. Is there like I want to tie back to Paladins a little bit.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you miss from Paladins that like you play in Valorant and be like, God, I wish Riot added this from Paladins into Valorant?
Oh, that's a good
Yeah,
question.
what's the guys with the
I
bombs?
mean-
Who's the guy that like, holds the bombs in his
Oh,
hands?
Bomb
Bomb
King.
King.
That's what you want.
That was my main character, actually.
Bomb King.
I mean, I don't know how they would like add that, like anything close to that in the game. Like you just chuck. Actually,
Yeah, it's just
they could
Raze
do like
who
an
only
ult
throws
where you
grenades.
just chuck bombs. Yeah, I guess that could be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It'd be hard to do that. Maybe they could like take some inspiration from some of the utility, well, not the utility, the abilities from Paladins and incorporate it somehow to like a lesser extent. Like I personally think we need like either to take healers out of the game or add more in,
Yeah.
because right now it's just
God.
Sage. And like, oh man,
Everyone doesn't like that answer.
I want you to know that.
would you-
I want you to know
I'm
that
interested to
Overwatch
hear
is.
this before we dive into
Okay.
Valorant. I'm interested to hear why like the idea of adding more healers could be beneficial for Valorant, because this is a topic that like many people just be like healing bad. But I'm actually interested to hear this side of the argument.
That's a good impression of me, Ducky.
Well, I think that me and Avril disagree on this one, but I personally would like to see a champion ban system in Valorant when there are more characters. Definitely not right now, and I think that if they add more healing characters, it would do a lot for the meta, and especially if we get those bans in place and like a drafting system of sort. Like you could see some really creative stuff come out from teams, and it'd make for like such a good competitive experience, and as well as like entertainment wise. Like I know if you watch League and you see someone pull out like a really off meta champion, like it's just so entertaining to watch. So yeah, I mean that kind of aspect. And I just think they need like more diversity for the healing stuff if they are going to add it in.
All right, what about you, Kevin?
No healing. No. No. Okay, so consider this. Overwatch, a hero shooter with a lot of healing, is now removing a lot of healing. In their most recent experimental patch, they just completely cut the healing down globally, pretty much on every single support hero. Because healing inherently as a mechanic, it just slows everything down. And like, if you are an attack shooter especially, healing, in my opinion, is just the worst possible mechanic. Like, res is right next to it, but healing's the worst. I'd rather have a res in there that's an ultimate that you can sort of mitigate, rather than like healing in there that is, the more healing that exists, the worse, and the worse the game is, in my opinion. Like, damage needs to count for something. Damage needs to convert into kills. That's the one thing I really respect and like about Counter-Strike, is damage means something. You can't just like heal the damage back up and reset to nothing again. Like, you don't want to get into this kind of damage versus healing arms race where you have to out heal the damage like Overwatch has been, especially in the past, where it's just like, can I do enough DPS to out heal this damage? To out damage the healing rather. And a game like this, it's like, you know, you want your damage to count for something. You don't want to tag somebody and then for them to walk away and then come back on full heals or 100 HP, and then it's like nothing really happened. Sure, you took away the armor, but like realistically, the guy's got enough HP now that unless you're connecting another headshot, he's got enough health that he'll survive multiple body shots and can frag you. It just slows everything down. So the more healing there is, the slower the game is, and the less the damage actually is meaningful, unless you're specifically only getting headshots, in which case you're killing. So it just means body shots don't mean anything. If there's a lot of healing, body shots might as well not exist, but might as well do zero damage. It's just completely pointless.
How do you feel about agents then with self-healing in their kit, like looking at...
I don't like that either. I think it needs, but it has to be limited. Here's the thing: is like Reyna self-healing. First of all, it's a lot of healing, but at least to get that healing requires you to do a lot. As far as Phoenix healing goes, like, yeah, I mean, the wall, that costs money, I'll give you that one. The free healing, I have a lot more problem with free healing than I have paid healing. If you're at least paying for it, it feels like there's a bit more of a offset, like a cost to it. But free healing is just kind of like, to me, it's not a good mechanic. I would say the amount of healing that currently exists in the game, like that should be it. In fact, there should probably be less, but I'll accept what's there currently, as long as there's not any more. If there's any more, it'll just get ridiculous. It's just like, does any damage mean anything anymore? Or is just it all going to get healed back up?
What do you think, Racket?
It's a fair point.
I'm stuck in between both of these pits. Like, I really do like the idea of having, like, Sage being the only healer in the game feels wrong, like, quote-unquote healer. Like, she occupies the utility healer defensive sort of slot, right, with both the heal, the res, slow, and war. Like, she occupies that supportive variant. Just only having one feels a little bit odd, and I think if a pick and ban system does happen in the future, it does make sense in terms of a design space to have like another option for that type of archetype. But at the same time, like, I wouldn't be unhappy if Sage wasn't in the game entirely. So if she's the only healer, I think introducing another option is fine. But if Sage wasn't there at all, like, then you'd have no healing at all. So I'm going in the middle.
So the solution is just to get rid of Sage, is what I'm saying. And it's just like, if there's only one and that's the problem, just get rid of everything, we're fine.
That's what you want the solution to be. But I said it was an alternate solution, I suppose.
Can I try and bridge a middle ground here? Is do we need to give Sage the mercy treatment? Where we
no,
just
you
need
need
to
to give Sage the
completely
entire
gut her
rework
kit.
treatment. I think both Rez is better, but like both Rez and Heal got to go. The wall and the slow are fine, and just put something else there. Put something else there, or make the heal into the ultimate, but it's like a better heal, but you can only get it twice per round because it's an ultimate. That feels a little bit better to me. But just heal on cooldown, even a long cooldown. I said this on the last show, but Sage is the most problematic character in the entire game. She's been hit with the most nerfs, most changes, more than Raze by a mile. Sage really is like the Mercy of this game, and not just because they're both healers, but like Mercy was super problematic in Overwatch and has got hit so many times with different nerfs and different changes, and they can never get it right. And Sage is unfortunately doomed to follow a very similar path and has already copped a ton of balance changes. And it just comes down to the fact that her kit is just not right for this game, in my honest opinion.
Well, here's what you do. I've played a lot of bad single-player games, Avril. You understand me, mate. Like, what they need to do is they need to make Sage's heal a skill shot where it's like a quick time event, right? So you add the skill shot element and you add the quick time event, right? So there's two
and then
elements
you
of
enter the
skill
Konami
there.
code, and then it works.
Exactly, and you have to buy it too. You're not getting it for free, mate. So you know.
True.
I can
Yeah,
just
yeah.
imagine the tilt that would come out of players
And-
of like if like
you
they
have to kill
run
it.
away from the Sage heal.
You have to get it as a kill streak. So, like in Call of Duty, you only got to kill like 3 people, and then you get it as a kill streak. That's how it works.
It's like deathmatch. You kill someone, and it's like you get a charge that drops if you run over their body. If you get 3 charges, you get the
Speaking of,
heal.
I think I said this to Wryce a while back. It was just as a joke. It was like, if anyone in a Valorant game drops 25 kills, they should just get a nuke, and the game's over. The game ends. Anyone that gets 25 kills, they just get a nuke kill streak, and the game is over. Just because why not? That should just be in every FPS title. You just get 25 kills, the game's over.
Could you imagine though? That'd just be
man.
chaos. There was another part of Bryce's argument though earlier that actually picked me was draft. Like, I don't think Valorant's currently designed for draft. Obviously with for 12 agents, it's very hard to be like, okay, each team you get 5 and you can't double up. But like, do you think that if potentially, like if Riot's releasing them at the click of like 1 every 2 months, which is what they're doing now, like you look down the line at like the end of next year, there's going to be like 30 odd. Like, do you think the drafting could potentially be a fix to a lot of issues that we could see that might not be solved by just pick ban, but not just by ban, but by pick as well?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it could be it could be on the table. I think just like the drafting for me, I just think it would make the games like so much more competitive. And like only having one character on a team, so you can't like both have a cipher or whatever. So then you like really have to think about like what you're choosing, and that whole aspect would come into the game. And that's what Paladins is like. So that's probably why I'm biased to it. But I mean, it could fix some issues. Yeah.
I mean, I'm a League player at heart, so I definitely feel you with pick ban. We've got 150 something to choose from over there.
Yeah, we definitely don't have enough characters now though, but in the future maybe. Yeah.
Now, also on the Paladins route, if there was one Paladins character you could choose to port into Valorant, excluding Bomb King, because you've mentioned that, who would you choose and why?
I would probably choose Androxus, because that character's ability set, I just think it would be so fun to play in competitive and even casual. Like, because he's got the dashes, he can go up in the air like Jet, and then he has like a Curse Revolver, which is like this big revolver he pulls out. He can like shoot the ground, it does AoE damage. And he's got like a reversal as well, which is like a shield he puts up that absorbs damage and then like puts it out. I actually could see something like that working in Valorant.
I would. What about the big turtle guy?
Oh, McCullough, a tank.
Yeah. I would do that just to piss off all the Counter-Strike players.
Yeah.
For no other reason. Just
Why couldn't I play Sky then and just run around invisible for like half the game? Like,
Oh, that would be awesome. That would be insane.
Oh, no.
look, I got level 25 on Sky, and I think I'm like max level 10 on anything else. I think like Grover's my next highest. So like, I'm a Sky player at heart. I would love to see Sky. Although it hurt me. I'm gonna dive back into Paladins here very briefly, but it hurt me because around the same time as OB64 when I left the game because Cards Unbound was terrible.
Yeah, it was.
They released Nave, and it completely ruined my life as a Sky player.
Yep.
And I just hated it. It was so anti-fun. I had to deal with Evie and I had to deal with Maeve. And it was just like, why?
Yep.
Why do I have to do this?
Yeah, man. Cards Unbound was the death of that game.
Yeah.
It really was. It was so unfortunate. It was a really fun game, but yeah, just didn't work out.
Yeah, it's how I feel about Dirty Bomb as well. Talking in like a similar game of like FPS games that definitely could have been, and who we could have been talking about nowadays of pros coming from.
Yeah.
Like other games like FPS titles that are now dead is like Dirty Bomb is like a huge one for me because I know there's a lot of guys in the Overwatch community who before they played Overwatch played Dirty Bomb. The biggest name one of those is Tongue, now Terry.
And Katie.
And Katie, yeah. But like Dirty Bomb was like one of those games where you could see like, oh, there's so much potential, and then just like Splash Games just went, oh yeah, we're gonna stop developing it. It's like mid 2018, and it's just not gonna bother anymore. It's like, fuck.
Yeah, it sucks.
Is there any like one team that you look up to in Pro Valorant, like internationally, like you look at and you go like, I really want to emulate that team style of play, or like a specific player that you idolize within the Valorant scene already?
Definitely G2, 100%, without a doubt. My favorite team to watch. Their like macro is insane, and all the players on that team are just mechanically gifted, and it's like always a pleasure to watch their games. So yeah, definitely G2, and also like watching Pith play. I think that's his. I hope that's his name.
Pith.
Watching him play as Cypher, has actually shown me a lot of stuff of what I can do, and I've been incorporating it a little bit into my game, like mostly on attack side actually, because he did some stuff that I thought was pretty cool. And I started doing that. It's actually helped out a lot. So yeah, definitely emulating G2 would be where I'd go.
Yeah, you couldn't see Avril because we were zooming into Wryce there, but he was biting his tongue. I was like, I hope he doesn't reveal anything else. Come on.
I'll try my best.
Look at him. He's deadpan now. He's absolute deadpan. He's holding his tongue.
Yeah, well done, Wryce. Good.
Yeah, thank you.
You're not being sentenced to Kovacs tonight, baby. You're safe. Who knows what he could have done? 100 hours of Kovacs, instant punishment. This is what you get. Aim training only. I find it interesting that there's a lot of like interest in the like, especially.
I don't know that would be a punishment. I think it was like people just like they just do it anyway. Like it's just people just want to play Kovacs.
Yeah, are you like Locust 2.0, Wryce? Are you like an absolute Kovacs fiend?
I have never played an aim trainer in my life, and I don't think I ever will. I actually had an argument about this on Twitter with people like pretty recently. I made a tweet. I was just like, stop telling me that like having really good aim makes a huge difference in Valorant. And I just said, place your crosshair, gentlemen, in caps. And it's like everyone freaked out about it. And I mean, at the end of the like, I'm not a like super mechanically talented player. The way I play is, up in here. So, and I mean, it seems to be working. But I mean, I don't know. I don't think that if people are trying to, because I get this question a lot in Discord, particularly. I don't think if you're a player that's like trying to go pro in Oceania, I don't think like sitting on Kovacs for 2 hours a day is the way to go. Like you should be watching VODs or like joining a team and scrimming, or even like playing a bit of ranked. I don't even play that much ranked either. So yeah, I'm not an aimer.
He just called out Saw, man. He's even in the chat. He just called him out for his Kovacs grinding.
Yeah, I'm gonna get yelled at again, but I stand by it. I don't think it's necessary.
I find it interesting you bring that up though, because there's an analogy that I bring up is like we've got this guy on my uni team, and he's like really good at like aim training and like on the range. Like he's going hard bots and he's getting like 20 plus every time on hard bots. And like there's me, who's a bit of a potato when it comes to that. Like I might get 10 on a good day on the range. But when it comes into the game, like, old mate Aaron will be sitting on like 3 and 15, and I'll be like at least positive. And the thing that I've always pointed out, and the thing that I think is really, really important, and it's really undervalued, is crosshair placement.
Yes,
if you have good crosshair placement, that's like 90% of your aim done. Like, and I that might be an overbearing of the percentage, but it's like the majority of your aim done is good crosshair placement, and then from there, it's like things like flicking and tracking and clicking heads.
Yeah. I mean, what I said was, aim obviously does make a difference because you can't like suck at aiming and be a pro player. But what I said is like, you can be a really good player, but if you want to be a great player, you do have to have that aim. But if you just want to be like a good player that plays at like tier 1 in Oceania, you do not have to be a nuts aim. You just have to have really good game sense. And as you said, crosshair placement, like that's one thing that I realized pretty quick, like focusing on my crosshair placement and like working out where people were and like getting game knowledge. And that just made like bounds of difference for my like fragging potential and stuff. So yeah.
Can we just make Kovacs an esport? Just a bit of an Avril Shower thought
I mean,
there.
it could be.
It could
Kovacs
be.
esport.
There are
Why
people
is-
who already treat it like an esport, bro. Like
Why
the
is
leaderboard.
literally.
Kovacs not the esport? Like, Kovacs World Championship, like on the
the
hard
player
bots and stuff
Locus.
like that. You're just fragging out, and all the people who are just like really good aimers have their like it's like Olympic competitive shooting. Isn't that just Kovacs real
Yeah.
life? You're just competing for targets. That's Kovacs, dude.
That's what
I'm
the
putting,
player
I'm
Locus
putting
in Overwatch
Max
was.
Icon as like the Australian representative for that, old mate Locus. You see
Yeah.
these
Oh,
big
he's
red
number
in
one,
I
water.
remember
right?
Locus. Is he a hardcore Kovaxer?
Yeah, he
Yes.
is. He posted on
It's like
Twitter
top
all
two
the
in
time.
the world, constantly.
Like he got top of the leaderboard again on like advanced tracking or something the other day, and he like posted it on Twitter. And I remember like when he was like back on heist and stuff, it was like always playing Kovacs. Like
Dude, they wanna
always
put-
playing Kovacs.
They want to do esports in the Olympics, man. Just put Kovacs in there. It's just put it right next to like archery and target shooting. There, boom, there you go. Gold medal, Locust,
I mean,
gold
I'd
medalist
watch it.
from Australia, Kovacs, hard bots, boom.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward into ROV. It's a while away now. The tournament's been pushed back a few weeks if you've missed the news. I think it's like
Unfortunately,
September 23 is like when you guys play in the playing stage. Is there any
Yeah.
teams that you're keeping particular eyes on? Like any teams that you're trying to benchmark yourself against?
Oh well, I'm keeping an eye on my like former Paladins opponents because I really want to beat them. Nothing's gonna stop me from beating them. I just have to. But also, I really want to for this tournament. I want to like make a stand because we had a pretty upsetting result on the last tournament. We came like 5th, 6th, and we definitely felt we could have done better than that. It was a pretty close series, and I mean, shout out to the Avant team. Now they played fantastically, but yeah, for this series, we want to make a showing and like we want to take down like Launch and XO and stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm keeping my eye on them. I'm coming for you guys.
I put out a message in Twitch chat about half an hour ago, like asking for Twitch suggestions, and I got one in particular from Spawn that I'm going to read out to you.
Okay.
It's like it's a question from Spawn, Jake Spawn Tiberi. Why did you come on this
Yeah.
show? Do you have nothing else to do tonight? Why aren't you scrimming?
Oh man, wait, is this the Spawn that would have casted the Order v Mind Freak show match
Yes.
like ages ago?
Yes.
Oh man, I don't know. Actually our scrims got cancelled, so I had time.
Oh, lucky.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Is that why you're here
Okay.
as well, Kevin? Unlike last week?
Yeah, well, you can say that. Like, I mean, that don't need me. Like, they just scrim. It's all good.
Yeah.
It's caught red-handed.
Well, there we go. That's the Twitch chat question that we got. The other one was about Killjoy, but we talked about that already.
Yeah.
Anyways, thank you so much for coming on, Wryce. If you have anything to plug, feel free to plug. Say hi to your mum and your dogs.
Well, thank you guys for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
No worries, mate.
And shout out Wolfpack.
Is that? Oh, he's throwing up gang signs now.
That's
Look at him go.
that's the Wolfpack sign. That's right.
Alrighty. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Wryce. Good luck when Rise of Valor kicks off again, sometime in mid-September. You can probably catch the action on twitch.tv/FortressMelb. Once that all kicks off, more details will be made available shortly. So keep your eyes peeled for that, and we'll probably update you once the event comes closer. You can go follow Wryce on Twitter. His Twitter handle's underneath his name. It's Wryce with an extra E on the end. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on the show, Wryce.
Thanks for having me, guys.
You've got a good little lad on your team there, Kev.
Actually got quite a few young players, and he's very talented, certified young gun on the team. People started putting those in their Twitter bios, and I'm certifying a lot of young guns these days. So
They're all certified by Avril.
You're like the JP down at the library. Like people come in their documents, and you're like, bam, certified. You're a certified young gun. Anyways, before we wrap up the show tonight, we're going to run through a bit of news that's been happening around the world. Quickly, the game's changed. Patch 1.6, yes, has finally come out. After Riot's holiday, how dare them take breaks? There was a small patch out. Nothing really of note other than that shotguns are more inaccurate in the air, so no flying shorties, and also Phoenix flashes were broken. That was it. That was the update.
I mean, it's not like not of note. I think the shotgun changes have been much required, and they're definitely changing team play a little bit. I think shotguns started to get a little too good, so that's a very necessary change. I think they've just, at least from what I've seen, they've just managed to change it enough that shotguns are still good without being extremely good.
Less shotgun rays, just satchel packing into U-Haul and bind. Yeah. Also, we spoke about it briefly, but the Rise of Valor top 16 has been finalized. Direwolves is in there, as well as the top 4 teams from the Order Valorant Open, which was held last month, as well as 12 teams who made it through the Open qualifiers. Play will kick off there sometime in mid-September. We'll update you as that time comes. And also, Wryce mentioned at the end there when he talked about Direwolves versus Control, which happened in OVO, which is where you guys got knocked out. Avant have signed the X-Control roster of Exy, Lakers, Major, Spesh, and Watt, also known as Kenny. Another big Australian org entering Valorant.
Always good to see, and always love the matches versus the other orgs as well. And you see the two orgs on there playing each other, that really, really sends it home of where the scene's moving towards. So looking forward to playing them again.
Aren't you an Avant alumni, Racket?
Sorry?
Weren't you with Avant once upon a time?
Yeah, I have a jersey somewhere. Yeah, so it's good to see them there. I'm just wondering who else is going to dip their toes in Valorant as well, or they're just waiting for more results or whatever. There's only one tournament that's gone through so far, so maybe, more orgs are looking for more consistent results. So
yeah, Spawn, are you still
have
here?
to...
Or no?
Yeah.
Where's the Order roster? Hopefully we can eke out another, VIS event. It's getting tight between the end of now and, the Ignition chapter in Valorant. But, I think we've definitely set the foundations for the OC Esports scene has been set. I think that the Control roster is a very logical pickup. One of the best teams. And, it keeps forging the rivalries when we see, not just, Tier 2 orgs entering the space, but Tier 1 orgs where you have, teams like Avant who clash against Direwolves in the OPL. Now they can continue that rivalry in Valorant. And I think that's a really, really cool kind of thing that you can see across time. Once the Chiefs come in, you've got Advance versus Chiefs in League, you've got Advance versus Chiefs in CSGO, now you'll get it in Valorant. I just really like the inter-org rivalries that kind of build from that. And I'm really excited to see, which other major teams are going to start investing into Valorant. Is Order going to come in? Is Chiefs going to come in? Is Legacy going to come in? Once these players start playing in the game, and then once more tournament organizers come about with these third-party events, or even Riot picks up some events in 2021 and beyond, that's when we're really going to see Valorant esports in Australia skyrocket, I think.
And good to see them, you talk about the OPL rivalries there, but even teams that are not quite, that are in different games, different titles, orgs that haven't competed in those titles. For example, Direwolves don't have a Counter-Strike team, but they get to play against a team like, the likes of Mind Freak, and they get to play against even new orgs in the scene like Exo Clan, playing against Avant, who do have a Counter-Strike team, and just different stuff like that, where orgs that have traditionally maybe not played against each other before, or, two orgs that have existed in different types of games coming together in the same game now to finally play against each other. That'd be quite exciting.
Yeah. And now looking more around the world, in APAC, Cloud9 have signed a Korean roster following in the footsteps of T1, including former Overwatch League pros Bazzy and Munchkin. So the full roster is Bazzy, Munchkin, Doya, who is a former PUBG pro for Dumwon, I think, Moody, who played Apex for Detonator Korea, and Try, who is a complete fresh face to the esports scene. I don't think they've played in any major tournaments yet, kind of just waiting to see how things go, but that looks like a very, very strong team when you look at the name value of it. And I'm really excited to see how that turns out in Korean Valorant, which is starting to really grow.
They have. That is a team that has existed before.
Okay.
I can't remember what name they were, but they've been playing in the Korean tournament. They have a tournament called
Clan Masters?
Clan Masters Clan Battle.
Yeah.
So that is the tournament they've all been playing in. So that team does exist. So
Okay.
Korea's actually been picking up a few. Like I think in a previous episode we may not have brought up T1 in there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, Korea's starting to get some orgs in.
You got Lunatic High as well in there, which is a very soft spot for Overwatch fans. So if you did miss Badger and Munchkin from the Overwatch League in the last 12 months, you can now go follow them in Valorant with Cloud9's roster. Another big roster pickup is Dignitas has secured the services of the ex-Homeless roster, who really made a name for themselves after they took down T1 way back when. No Lasky, but Def, Sam, Poised, and Superman have joined Dignitas with a 5th on the way. And they will be participating in the Pop Flash tournament this weekend. Very exciting pickup. I think it was a long time coming for that roster. I guess it was just a matter of signing the paperwork with an org, and that team does bring me joy and like excitement to see like potentially another super team entering NA or like actually cementing themselves at the top of NA Valorant, not just tier 7 Sentinels.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it could introduce different like grand final scenarios. So we could have a potential, different variants coming from the semifinals into the grand finals, because you can pretty much safely assume that, Sentinels and TSM are most likely going to be getting out. You've had Cloud9 who were just going through on their AWP play pretty much. And so I suppose that's why they've changed a lot of their roster. It's good that Dignitas are solidifying themselves a little bit more. And with the next tournament just around the corner, then it's time to put it to the test, I suppose.
Any thoughts, Avril?
I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how all of that kind of shapes up as well. With Dignitas coming in, I think Homeless have been a good team, and a lot of those more kind of middle of the pack, up and coming teams should be, could have some really bright futures ahead of them. So we'll see how NA continues to evolve in terms of who's good, and how things shape up, because I don't suspect it'll always be a TSM Sentinels affair. I do think there's the other teams that should be in there. I mean, you had once upon a time T1 was a very good team, and now they're kind of struggling a little bit more. And I think there's definitely a lot of room for different teams to take the space available. Speaking
of T1 struggling, for the last bit of news that we're going to talk about on tonight's show is Skadoodle has benched himself once again for Pop Flash, which is the tournament that we were just talking about, which is on this weekend from August 26th. He was playing a Sage role, I guess, but he was also an AWPer, so it was a very passive style of operator, which doesn't really fit the NA meta of where you have a Jet or even a Reyna just playing super, super aggro AWPs and getting picks and then dashing away. And so he's gone off on a pilgrimage for a few weeks to deepen his agent pool and hopefully come back better than ever for the T1 roster. In the meantime, we don't know who's going to be playing, but it's probably going to be Frod. He stood in for them in the Knights Gauntlet last week and probably makes the most sense. Yeah, that's pretty much what's happening around the world in Valorant.
We'll have to see how T1 goes, because, again, they're a team that did well early on. They were one of the first signed teams, a big org like T1 as well, who, by the way, have 3 teams now. If people didn't know, 3 teams just in Valorant. So that's pretty insane. You don't see that very often at all. They have their main T1 team, an academy team, and then also the Korean team. Yeah. So, yeah, T1 are juggling quite a few players there.
Do you think there's potential in the future that they maybe elevate one of the academy players up to the main roster, run like a pseudo 10-man roster where they shuffle players between the two as need fit?
It would depend. I don't know. I think it would make more sense for them to just enter both teams in the same tournament, if that's even possible. That would give them the most exposure. But if they can't do that, then maybe they would try and do a 10-man thing. But I don't know. Those types of teams usually don't. They don't, unless you actually sub players in. You're taking a player from T1 Academy as you might as well just be taking any other player, because unless you've actually been subbing, you've actually been practicing, you're just kind of putting a player into an unfamiliar territory. So they would have to be already doing something behind the scenes where they're giving game time and they're already doing some sort of subculture. Otherwise, it's not going to work out.
I mean, supposedly they would be having some sort of script culture within themselves, right?
They can in-house. They can in-house, but they're not swapping players between the teams. Is what I'm saying.
Okay. Okay, yeah, makes sense.
But yeah, we'll have to see how that one plays out. Very interesting dynamics that we could potentially see from T1 in the future, and also very interesting scenes from what we could potentially see from a revitalized Skadoodle in the next few weeks. Anyways, that's all we've got for tonight. Well, before we head off, I'll take you for a quick wrap around of what you need to know for the week ahead. As we've been mentioning at the top is Pop Flash, the NA Ignition Series event, the final one for the region, kicks off this Sunday this week, August 27. You can do the math. I think that's Thursday at 2 a.m. AEST. Set your alarms early if you want to tune in to watch TSM take on Dignitas. Games will be running all through the day, so if you missed the first couple of sets, you can always catch up later that night. Also on this weekend is Level Clash 2, the European Valorant Ignition Series event featuring 16 teams over there. G2, FPX, Team Liquid, all the top teams over there will be trying to duke it out for 15,000 euros. That's on August 28 and 29. Schedule yet to be confirmed, but you can probably expect some late nights if you want to stay up and watch that. Back here at home, if you want to play some games, you can jump in on the Valorant OS 10-mans on Saturday nights at 7 p.m. AEST, or the Summoner Society Weeklies at Thursday at 6 p.m. AEST. As we mentioned earlier, Rise of Val is taking a break until mid-September for the playing stage. So until then, that's all we've really got for Run It Back this week. Thanks so much for coming on this week, Avril, Racket, and big thanks for everyone in chat from me. We love seeing you. Feel free to ask questions for our guests in the future, and we read every bit of feedback. So thank you so much, and we will catch you all next week.
Thank you.
Thanks.